Hello everybody and welcome to the video. For today's video, I will be giving you my personal prediction for the 2024 presidential election. During this video, you will see two different maps that I put together for my prediction. You will have the main map and a second map which will contain the margin of victory that I believe will take place during the course of the election. Now, I will start off by saying that my prediction will not be based off of any polls, to be honest, because I don't know how much I believe in these so-called polls. I mean, these polls, it's not like you're going to get millions of people taking them. You're only going to get like a couple hundred, a couple thousand per state, depending on where you're from. Not to mention, polls are often not exactly accurate, if you know what I mean. My prediction is more based off of feelings I might get from a certain state, or, something I may have heard somewhere, if you know what I mean. So with that being said, let me show you what I predict for the 2024 presidential election. I will start off by giving you my first map, which is the main map. So as I show you my map, there's a chance you may be surprised by what you see. So first off, I used the 270 to win interactive map to create this map for my prediction. But beyond that, you may see a few surprising features. So, as you look across the map, you will see, the differences between this electoral map versus, what we would see on the 2020 electoral map. So, a couple changes I think may occur, between the 2020 election and this one is I felt like personally, Arizona will end up being going back to being a more red state in this election after voting narrowly Democratic in the 2020 election, and also North Carolina. So my prediction of a blue North Carolina comes from a couple of reasons that I think may end up panning out if we get to election day and we see it. So not just people knowing who Trump is and the things that he did the last few years, but also things he's threatening to do. But Roe v. Wade and all that stuff. But also, I've heard somewhere that North Carolina has been kind of trending blue. I mean, hasn't voted blue since what, 2008. A couple different combined factors, I think, may allow North Carolina to be blue again, and for 2024. Now, you may also see Georgia is still blue after 2020. This is at least based off of an article I read that said there's some record-breaking early votes going on down there. So, if you recall, back in 2020, there was this big early vote that, more or less allowed President Biden to win the state. Narrowly as hell, but, he did it. But then there's Pennsylvania. Now, other factors that kind of, went into my decision making is also the, changes in electoral vote counts for districting and all that. Now, I believe primarily by dropping an electoral vote and therefore a district, it may make it a little bit more red than it would have, if it were last decade. I'll tell you what. How's about we switch to my margin of victory map next? So as I switch to my margin of victory map, again you may see a few surprising details. So I suppose one thing I'll note is, take a look at Minnesota, for example. Now, in 2020, it was considered what's called a lean Democratic classification on the margin of victory scale. So it's more it was a lighter blue than it is now. It's more what's called a likely Democratic classification on the margin of victory scale, which means its margin of victory would be something between 10 to 15 points, if you know what I mean. Now, the main reason by the uptick from 2020 is, Governor Walz is from there, for one thing. But again, obviously other factors may allow it to be, more blue than it wasn't even in 2020. Now, Wisconsin and Michigan. I've personally felt like if they end up being blue again, it'll only be about more or less how they voted in 2020. So pretty much between 0 and 5 points somewhere is why I felt like it could happen. Now you'll see Ohio is given a likely Republican classification because that's really where J.D. Vance is from. Because usually what I've seen is, a state does seem like it, kind of trends a certain way if a candidate comes from that particular state. That's at least, based on, past occurrences in elections, I feel like I've seen. For Nevada, I have heard people say, at least based on polls, they're kind of anticipating maybe it'll flip red again. I don't know that I see the same thing happening. Now, if somehow 2024 is in fact, at the very least closer than it was in 2020, while I don't anticipate it will flip red, I think it'll still go for Harris, but only on the order of half of a point or maybe 1 point, which is still a downtick from 2020. For Texas, that was a bit of a difficult call. I was leaning towards either going for tilt Republican or lean Republican, to be honest. Because yes, on one hand you do have the whole border thing, but on another hand, look at Roe v. Wade. I can't help but feel like there's people down there who feel like, oh, you know what? I feel like maybe we made a mistake by overturning it. Because I do feel like there's people who, they see what happened or what's happened since. And again, back to Pennsylvania for a minute. I do feel like if somehow it ended up going right again in 2024, it may be particularly close there as well. I felt like it may be no more than 10,000 vote difference. That's what I felt like, at least. But otherwise, elsewhere, you have some, downticks or upticks depending on where you're from or where you're looking, like Kansas, Alaska, stuff like that. But yes, overall, I do believe personally that Harris will end up winning the election. It probably still will be closer than it was in 2020, but I do believe she will personally pull it off. So that has been my personal prediction for the 2024 presidential election. If any of you have a comment or thought you'd like to share, please do leave a comment in the comment section. And maybe leave a like and subscribe if you like what you see. But yes, thank you all for watching.